This morning's reading comes, many of you might recognize this. It's the words of a hymn, one of my personal favorites, and I've sung it so many times, but I've never really kind of listened to the words close up. So, my life flows on in endless song, above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars, I know the truth it liveth. What though the darkness round me close, songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails on heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice, both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging, when friends by shame are undefiled. How can I keep from singing? Good morning, friends. My name is Valentin, and it is my pleasure to serve as your ministerial intern here at the First Parish in Cambridge. First and foremost, thank you, choir. Obviously, every Sunday that you're here is amazing, but especially on this music-themed Sunday, it means so much to have your presence and your voices. And speaking of the choir, has anyone else here sung in choirs before? Anyone? I see some hands. Yeah, I didn't think that would be a very, rare thing. Me too. Growing up in a family full of musicians, choir was one of the many forms of music I was encouraged to try by my parents. And it was one that stuck. I started singing in children's and youth choirs, trying out different groups, different styles to see what would fit. And eventually in high school, I did find one that I really clicked with. It was the senior choir at a local congregation here, our friends at the First Church in Belmont. And there is something really magical about finding a choir that you really click with. A choir where everyone is on the same page, connected musically, understanding each other wordlessly or with words, just in all the ways. And part of what's so thrilling about that is that it invites you to think about the pieces of music you're excited to sing with that group. And for me, the piece of music I was really excited to sing was a very specific one. It's called Miserere by Henryk Górecki. Is anyone familiar? For those of you who don't know this piece, it is absolutely sublime. It's a 37-minute long piece of choral music, no piano, no accompaniment, no anything, and it consists of just 5 words, 2 short Latin phrases, Domine Deus Noster, Lord our God, and Miserere Nobis, have mercy on us. And it's split into 10 sections, and in the first one, the only voices singing are the low basses singing a slow, mysterious melody. And then in the next section, the baritones layer in and becomes a 2-part harmony with a more plaintive tone. Next, the low tenors join, and then the high tenors on, and then the song changes and morphs, and it adds more flavor and richness, and it becomes hopeful, prayerful, mournful, glorious, contemplative, all of the above, and the piece builds and builds and builds and gets bigger, more than you can imagine, and then it just keeps building, and then it keeps building to that final refrain where it all comes together in a collision of light and harmony before crumbling away into an ever-softening epilogue of prayer. It's one of the most stunning pieces of music I had ever heard in my life, and I could not wait for the day that I get to sing it with my favorite choir. And the reason for that is that the experience of singing, for me, it was not just about the learning or the kind of the process of getting through it. It was an all-consuming experience. Because for the duration of a rehearsal or a performance, there was no world around me, no yesterday, no tomorrow, no school. There was just the notes on the page and what my ears were telling me. So if that's all there is, the notes and the music, how can I keep from singing? That other song I read, the hymn, very different from Goretzky's Miserere. It's another piece of music I was exposed to at the same time, singing at First Church Belmont. A beautiful and classic song found in many hymnals in different denominations, including in our gray one. My Life Flows On speaks to that same sense of whole body living with music, but it begs to differ as to the role that that plays when someone is submerged in song. The words of verse 2, published under a pen name by someone whose identity is now lost to history, does not speak of using singing as an act to step away from the world, to escape from it, but instead speaks to singing as the thing we're doing when we are engaging most directly with the world around us. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? Just as a mirror shows us nothing except for what is in front of it, a song that is truly sung from deep in the soul is an echo, a response to the call of the world that comes before it. And if my younger self had spent some time digging into that piece of music I was so enamored with, then I would have realized that the composer, Henryk Goretzky, would have agreed with this notion as well. The piece, Miserere, was written in response to a police crackdown that occurred in 1981 in Poland, when members of a farmers' union were organizing a sit-in demonstration demanding legal recognition from the government, to which government officials refused to give an inch, calling in military police to beat protesters so severely that over 20 were hospitalized. The slow, swelling nature of the piece that Henryk Goretzky wrote was not just beautiful writing, but it was symbolic. It represents the voices of the few growing and swelling and building in ever greater solidarity until the chorus of the many drowns out everything else in glorious harmony. And the symbolism is even more poignant because after the incident in 1981, in Poland, it resulted in years of martial law. And so Goretzky's composition couldn't be premiered for 6 years. So in some ways, the full sheet music includes a 6-year silence at the beginning of the piece before the first defiant note is sung. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails on heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? Singing in response to the injustices of the world is, of course, nothing new. It's a centuries-old tradition to witness something that is wrong in the world, usually abuses by the people with power, and then we express that not simply in words, but in song. There is no way to know what the first protest song was, as many of them have morphed and changed, hiding their anti-authoritarian origins from later generations. One of the earliest existing songs that we suspect of having pro-justice messages is the folk song The Hunting of the Wren, originating from a 14th century revolt in England, speaking, or rather singing, to help mobilize the masses against the tyrant king Richard II. My own personal favorite, or one of my favorite protest songs, I learned in 2015 when I was participating in student protests in Chile, advocating for more equal access to education. The song El Derecho de Vivir en Paz was written by Victor Jara in 1971 to protest the Vietnam War, but then Jara was killed 2 years later by the emerging fascist government. He became a martyr, and the song became an anthem. Derecho has been sung at every protest in Chile for 55 years and counting, a message of boldly refusing the actions of the cruel and the unjust, a message that transcends generations and refuses to be silenced. Just this week was May 1st, celebrated as International Workers' Day since the 19th century, and it began with a protest against cruel working conditions in rapidly industrializing Chicago. And in the decades that followed, labor movements around the world have brought us some of the most well-known pieces of protest music. Solidarity Forever is still sung at picket lines very commonly. It's set to a tune we recognize as Battle Hymn of the Republic, which was also a protest piece of sorts, written by a famous abolitionist and suffragist, Julia Ward Howe. But her version, in turn, was also based on an earlier song. It was sung to the tune of John Brown's Body, another abolitionist anthem. Solidarity Forever emphasizes the power and importance that people have when they are fighting for what's right. To quote the song, "In our hands is placed a power greater than their hoarded gold, greater than the might of armies magnified 1,000-fold." Perhaps the most recognizable version of the song for many of us is the one by Pete Seeger, himself a member of a number of Unitarian and UU churches throughout his life, recognizing the common threads between the values and principles that we choose to lift up and the songs of hope, progress, and struggle that he cared about singing. As I said, the tradition of protest music is deep and it's twisty, and it permeates our history and our music. The nature of authoritarian and wannabe authoritarian forces is sticky. And so the movements for justice must be motivated on both a short and a long time scale, celebrating the little victories while also still pushing with a moral imagination for a world that is more equitable, more loving than the one that we had a day before. The unifying and embodying power of song works on both of those levels. We sing today for justice, we sing tomorrow for justice. When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice, both far and near, how can I keep from singing? This refrain, this almost painfully rhetorical question, how can I keep from singing, only makes sense because there is only one answer that we can give. We can never keep from singing. We sing because the world is an indescribably beautiful and incredible place, and the gratitude that this fills us with can only be described in song. We sing because the world is hurting and in need of healing, and song fuels us to keep pushing for those who need us. We sing to honor those who came before, and we sing for those that come after. We sing because it reaches us somewhere deep, deep inside, where things that really matter live. We sing to express all the things we have words to say, and we sing to express the things that words never could. And it's also worth saying that we're not talking about formal, stuffy, exclusive singing. We're talking about an expansive, inclusive, enveloping singing. There are no auditions for the choir of the many singing for justice. Singing the right notes, singing the wrong notes, singing loud, singing quiet, just mouthing along to the words, singing in whatever language speaks to you. All this is part of the chorus. I never actually got the chance to sing Miserere with the Belmont Choir. In fact, I've still never gotten to sing it with any choir. I still listen to recordings of it every now and then when I get the chance, and I am more swept away by it every time. The gradual, swelling harmonies are still like nothing I have ever heard. And I hope that I get the chance to sing it one day. But when I do, and I'm sure it will be a consuming and all-encompassing experience, what will be different than how I thought about this 15 years ago is that it won't be a chance to set aside the world for 37 minutes of focus. It will be an opportunity to dive deeper into this amazing world that we are blessed to be in. Which is the same reason we are here together today. We don't gather in community because we're trying to ignore the world outside our doors. We aren't looking away. We are, in a way, refocusing our gaze to a world that is so desperately seeking peace and justice, doing the work that matters to make it so. Grieving and celebrating and lifting and holding, singing and hearing the songs we love so much with the people who we love so much. So, to everyone here, you sound an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing?